Did Russia just have its biggest breakthrough in Avdiivka yet? But at what cost? And what can the Ukrainians do to stop it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's October 24th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, taking a look at the combat map, the biggest change is outside of Avdiivka, and particularly here in the northern prong of Russia's encirclement effort near Krasnohorivka. You can see the Russian forces advancing quite a ways. Let's see if we can get a ruler onto this. It looks like around, let's see. I'd put it at 1 to 1.4 kilometers, probably at the furthest points here. Actually, it could be a little beyond that. Let's get it more accurate. It's about right here was their start point. Their furthest point from that is, so we're looking at 2 kilometers in around 24 hours. This is a huge advance and represents possibly that Russia has thrown just enough material at this problem, so to speak, to achieve a breakthrough. And you know that unlike the Ukrainian counteroffensive, where Russia spent 6 months preparing defensive lines, Ukraine spent that time focusing its resources on building an offensive capability, which means that they don't have the sort of defense in depth necessarily that you would want to see in this region, and certainly not to the Russian scale. Ukraine, because they've received so many supplies from the U.S. and Western powers, unfortunately, that means the passive mines that are so effective in Zaporizhzhia, Ukraine doesn't have access to them. So it's possible that Russia, once they break through Ukraine's primary defenses, they may not see the sort of passive obstacles and such as mines or really mines is what I'm talking about in these regions around things like Stepova. So does it portend something worse? It maybe. The thing to remember, though, is that the advance here seems to be on some pretty hilly territory, and Russian forces, of course, are advancing into large open areas where this generally is indicative of an area where Ukrainian artillery can do their best work, where the Ukrainian drone observers and fire direction drones are going to be at their most effective. So hopefully this portends a serious grinding on Russian forces. But again, as we've seen, they are certainly capable, Russians, of assuming just an absolutely eye-watering amount of casualties. It continues to shock me seeing this scale of losses and to see them still moving forward, still pushing into Ukrainian forces. Now, the only other place where there's been a small update, and it's pretty marginal, is outside Bakhmut. You can see here, this is more of a repositioning, again, probably about 100 meters of relatively empty terrain advancing into the center of Bakhmut. It seems relatively unlikely that this is going to produce anything substantial, given that, again, Russian forces are trying a little bit to collapse these Ukrainian advances outside of Burkiva, but by and large, advancing through the center of Bakhmut is just going to, you see, the further they advance, the more Ukrainian forces to the north and south are going to be able to apply pressure to Russian forces. So there's not a tremendous incentive to advance much beyond maybe this river type region here, this river and windbreak combination, because it's going to produce such vulnerability for Russian troops that advance. Now, looking at the combat map, you can see 38 Russian combat actions. The other noteworthy item is that along this Kherson front, we're seeing evacuations. The Ukrainian government has ordered a tremendous number of towns along the Dnieper to evacuate. It's possible that this is in anticipation of a larger offensive action along this Kherson bank. We know it's something that Ukraine has been talking about for a long time. We've heard very little in the last couple days on it, but hearing very little is both good and bad, right? You could see this is the first public reporting is just this evacuation order, which again seems to me to be in anticipation of a pending increase in Ukrainian offensive actions, likely a larger crossing in a larger area. Other than that, you can see Russian forces attacking exactly where we'd expect them to across Bakhmut, in the Avdiivka region, and a few fixing operations outside Donetsk, outside of Verbova, and in the northern area as well. Again, likely spoiling or fixing attacks. Guys, the only other thing to talk about, if you want to see the combat footage from Avdiivka, that video is dropping today on Combat Vet News. If you've been a member before, and I know we've had serious issues with the loading times, I think I finally got it fixed. It was actually on me. I was uploading these like multi-gig sized video files, and I finally got some compression software to actually work. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, keeping me independent, and becoming a member, getting access to those combat videos, any one of these tiers will get you access. So check it out, become a member. Links in the description or up there. Other than that, thanks to the Colonel tier members of CombatVetNews.com. I couldn't do this without you guys. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members and all the members of Combat Vet News. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right. Cheers.